Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you for Friday, April 4th. Seems like the only day that I'm going to be able to win anything is my birthday, as the gambling gods gave me a birthday gift, I guess. And since then, my hat is like falling off. Since then, not since then, but all the days surrounding it have been losses. Yesterday, 1-4, and I really don't think it should have been. I mean, the over in the afternoon baseball game there with the Phillies and Rockies, that was not even close. And in that game, there were tons of runners stranded on base, man. You had 4 runs scored in the game, despite the fact that there were 19 combined hits. I mean, that is not something you usually see. Then we had the winner was the under in some baseball game. I don't even remember what it was. Which game was it? Who remembers? I don't remember. I think it was Brewers-Reds. Is that what it was? So that game went under. Then we had, as Nestor Cortez, I think, actually did better than people thought that he would after his horrible start to the season. And then Memphis Grizzlies, of course, are another win and non-covers. My NBA has been my only good sport recently, and that just didn't pan out as the Grizzlies couldn't get margin in that game. They did have margin at various points in the second half and couldn't get it done. And then we had both hockey plays lost. Columbus, I think that final score, I think, looks worse than the game actually was. And then Utah completely dominated that game, dude. That game was a 1-1 game in the middle of the third period. And then they gave up 2 goals in like a 40-second span or something, and the game was over almost immediately because of that. Just ridiculous. Utah, at one point, was out shooting the Kings in a tied game, like 25-9. So Utah, I mean, they finished with a 30-19 shot advantage. Maybe some of it was because they were losing late in the game, but even when they weren't losing, they had a huge shot advantage. It was like the Kings didn't even show up early in that game, and Utah still lost. So what can you do? Let's move on to today. Just get away from all this bullshit. No college basketball today for the first time in quite a while. And, of course, we do have the Final Four tomorrow, which I'll talk about tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Might have played both of those games, to be honest. We got 3 hockey games today, so we'll start there with the NHL. First game up is Carolina-Detroit, and I'm playing this game. I'm going to take Detroit as I can't hold on. As I put an extra space in there. Hold on a second. Come on, man. Stupid banners. All right, there we go. I'm going to be on Detroit on the half on the puck line, half on the money line, half of the plus 1.5. Yeah, and there's another parenthesis in there. I can't get it right, man. All right, there it is. All right, Detroit on the money line, half on the money line, half on the puck line. What am I saying? At minus 155, this is like right around the price where I start wanting to split the bet, half on the puck line, half on the money line. I'm going to fake Carolina, even though, yes, they are the better team. Carolina up from minus 177 to minus 185, even though they have 79% of tickets and only 63% of the cash. Carolina just beat Washington, man, 5-1. Big win for Carolina. Now, they do start a road trip, so you usually tend to be focused on the road trip, but I'm just not sure I see it happening in this one, man. Coming off that big win, I think it may be a letdown spot. Carolina, if you look at the standings, they're almost locked into their position in the playoffs here, man. They're 9 points behind the Washington Caps, even though they just beat them, and they're 9 games ahead of the New Jersey Devils, 9 points, excuse me. So they already have clinched a playoff spot, and they're almost locked into the 2 seed in the Metro. So there's really no movement for them that is possible at this point. Almost no movement possible. Whereas Detroit is 6 points out of the wild card right now, and they've been sliding. So I think Detroit is going to finally have a good effort in this one, man. That would be my guess. Detroit is returning home, but only from a 1-game stint out to St. Louis. They've been losing a ton of games in a row, man, and they have an extra day off, and they're 2 days off. I think they're going to be focused with Carolina coming into their place, and they did just lose at Carolina back on the 14th. So it is a little bit of a quick revenge spot there as well. So I will be on Detroit. I'll split the bet, be a little bit safer about it. So if they cover the 1.5 puck line, the bet will still be a small winner at the very least, even if they lose by 1. All right, and then we have Minnesota and the Islanders. The Islanders right behind Detroit, so they're still not eliminated. They've been playing fairly poorly as well recently, I think, but they are in the more motivated spot here. Islanders up from minus 119 to minus 125. Public on Minnesota. 67% of tickets, although 72% of the cash right now. But I agree with the line move on the Islanders. Islanders still trying to get into the playoffs. Minnesota, yeah, they're on a slide right now. I keep telling you Minnesota's not as good as they actually look. They're coming off a tough overtime game, 2 overtime games against the Devils and the Rangers. Now they have to finish the New York, New Jersey triangle here. And then when they return home, they got Dallas. Minnesota, I mean, I don't know that they're really going to be in a great spot here. And they're facing an Islanders team that needs the game a lot more. As Minnesota, again, is basically, they've pretty much clinched one of the wild card spots at this point in the West. Islanders still fighting to even try to get into the playoffs. 3 games in a short span here, even though they're all kind of in the same geographic area. I don't think it's a good spot for Minnesota. I like the Islanders better in this one for all those reasons. And the Islanders did just return home and have a bad performance against Tampa Bay. Even though Tampa's good, that could be a spot where you're going to wind up bouncing back. So that is what I'm going to look for there. Let's go over to the NBA, where I do have one NBA play, even though it's a big Friday. NBA card, we got a bunch of games or a bunch of double-digit lines here, and games that just don't really matter at all. I do think the Celtics are in a more positive spot here because they did just return home, and I faded them in the return home spot after a long road trip, and they lost to Miami as double-digit favorites. And usually when the Celtics lose as double-digit favorites, they turn it on in the next game. Celtics are laying a ton of points here against Phoenix, though, up from 11.5 to 15 now. Celtics, so they are in a good spot in that second game back from a road trip. If you do bad in the first game, you tend to bounce back in the second game. Problem is they're laying a ton of points. They don't have that much left to play for as far as playoff positioning. They're almost guaranteed the 2 seed in the East right now, whereas Phoenix is on the outside looking in right now in the West and trying to get a play-in spot. So you might actually get a bigger effort out of Phoenix in this game still just because of what these teams have left to play for. Phoenix just lost in Milwaukee. They've lost a couple of games in a row badly. They've been playing really bad defense recently. And this is a quick road revenge spot for Phoenix, as well as the Celtics on that road trip went into Phoenix and embarrassed them by 30 points. So I'm not going to lay the points with the Celtics in that game. A couple of the big games here. Oklahoma City at Houston is a big game. Thunder up from 6.5 to 7 with juice, but looks like maybe there's some buyback on the Rockets now. 76% of tickets, only 66% of the cash on the Thunder, so they are public. Money kind of coming in against them, though. Oklahoma City, I mean, they don't have anything left to play for. They've wrapped up the 1 seed, but they're still playing well as they continue to just win games, maybe just for pride. But they go on the road to Houston. Houston has a little bit to play for, as they're still, I think, trying to clinch the 2 seed in the West right now. So they do have a little bit more to play for. They are a home dog here. They just returned home from a road trip, and I thought it was a bad spot for Houston coming off that close game loss to the Lakers, returning home, and they still just crushed Utah, who is just a dead team now. So after that, I don't know, that kind of shows me something. I don't think Houston's going to be overconfident, even though when you beat anybody by 30 points, or 40 points, 38 points, you're going to be feeling a little bit overconfident usually. But with the Thunder coming into their place, I think you're going to get a focused effort out of Houston nonetheless. And that showed me something, that they played really well, even though that was a bad spot. So I would slightly lean to grabbing the points with Houston in that one. We do have Denver and Golden State, which is the one game on NBA TV, and it's the game I'm playing, and I'm going to be on Denver -1.5. I think this is a good spot to take the Nuggets and to fade the Warriors. The Nuggets have flipped from a 3-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. It looks like it's continuing to move up. So you got to get on the Nuggets if you do like that side. You could lay a small number of points or lay the money line, probably still in like the -125 range right now. 59% of the cash on the Nuggets, 61% of tickets on the Warriors. So the public is liking the Warriors right now. Warriors have looked better recently, so of course there is recency bias here. They've been playing well since they got Butler. They've won 4 games in a row, and yeah, they beat Memphis and the Lakers on the road, which are pretty good teams, but now look at the spot that they're in. Golden State has been on the road. They went all the way to the East Coast. They are back on the Pacific Coast now, but even so, that was still technically a road game, and now they have to go up from Southern California back to the Bay Area, so they are going to be finally returning home, even though, yes, they'll be adjusted to the Pacific time zone now, but they're coming off a big win over the Lakers, which could be a potential playoff matchup if it happens. Probably unlikely to happen, but you never know. Golden State, That big win for them over two teams that are probably playoff teams in Memphis and LA. And now returning home from a 6-game road trip that took them all the way to the East Coast and down into Texas. They haven't been home since March 22nd. And you know I always say when a team has been away for a long time, especially if they're coming off a big win like that, they tend to be a little bit distracted, even though if they're playing through, which they are, they don't have a day off. Sometimes that means they're going to not fall into that home distraction because they're not going to get into that like rhythm back home yet because they just have to play right away. But in this case, I think it's bad. It's a back-to-back. Golden State might be resting some people, which is why Denver is actually the favorite in this game, even though between the two of them, I do actually think Denver might actually be the better team when completely healthy. Golden State, again, they're having to turn around and play right away in a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, and a fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities. So that's not easy to do either. Even though Golden State is fighting to try to avoid the play-in spots right now. So they are fighting to try to have one of the actual guaranteed playoff spots. But Denver is still fighting for a home playoff series as well. So both teams should be focused here as far as, like, there is motivation on both sides. But I just think the spot is too bad for Golden State in the return home spot. In Denver, coming off an ugly loss. But that was a bad spot, man, against San Antonio. They were playing on a back-to-back after going 2 overtimes against Minnesota the game before that. In Denver, that was a big game for Denver. I mean, they have not been able to beat Minnesota in the last, 6 tries now, going all the way back to the middle of the playoff series last year. So Denver has not gotten revenge on them for losing that playoff series. Tough game going into double OT. So I think they were in a really bad spot on the quick turnaround time of the back-to-back with then this game up next as another big game. I think it was a sandwich spot. I mentioned I leaned to San Antonio in that game. So I like Denver this time as they're coming off a pretty embarrassing loss, really, as a home favorite. One of the best things you could do when things are not going well at home is to just leave, go out on the road for a little bit, focus on basketball. I don't know what the personnel is going to be in this game. Since Denver is the favorite, it looks like we do have a lot of game time decisions. Again, with Jamal Murray's been dealing with an injury. Aaron Gordon listed there as well. We'll see what happens. Not too much going on in Golden State's injury report, but given that it is a back-to-back, I don't know if it means they're going to be resting guys or if the odds makers are just telling you Denver is actually enough of the better team that they're the favorite on the road, or maybe the spot is being factored in a little bit. But I like Denver. I think the spot does dictate that, so I'm going to play that game, and I think that's probably it for NBA. I mean, well, I guess Dallas and the Clippers is a game with playoff implications, as Dallas is actually in one of the play-in spots right now, fighting to try to get into the playoffs. Clippers up from 7-10 now, so money is coming in on the Clippers. 79% of tickets, 99% of the cash coming in on the Clippers. Dallas coming off that win at home against Atlanta. Close game. I lost on that game. I had Dallas minus the points, and they did not cover the spread. They probably should have, up double digits in the fourth quarter, and they couldn't cover. Now they go out on the road, so I do think it is a focus spot for Dallas when you start a road trip, especially against a playoff team like the Clippers. I think it is a good spot for them. The Clippers did just return home from a road trip already, and they, I believe, didn't cover in that game, but they won and almost covered against the Pelicans, winning by, 16 points. I think there was a 17-point spread there, so they almost covered. 18.5, it looks like. So Clippers, I mean, that was just kind of a whatever effort for them against a bad Pelicans team that has just a bunch of injuries again. So they are back home. It is their second game back home. So I think both teams are going to be focused. I think Dallas kind of does need the game a little bit more. And then getting all those points might be value on Dallas. I think the perception of Dallas is still below what the reality is, as Dallas does have AD back. They got some of their players back. I don't know if they're going to be out for this game or not, but Kyrie is really the one guy who's out, the one big injury there. Lively looks like he's not coming back yet. It looks like he might be back tomorrow. AD is a game-time decision. In a big game against the Clippers, I kind of expect him to play, though, even though the line is pretty high on the Clippers, so maybe they're expecting him not to play. I don't know. We will see. And that might be the reason for the line move like that. I'm not going to get involved. Again, NBA, end of the season is pretty tricky because you don't know what the personnel is going to be, but I think I find good spots, and my NBA has been doing pretty decently, even though I've lost on 2 favorites over the last couple of games where they won and didn't cover, so I was still basically on the right side of those. Let's go to the MLB, man. I only got 2 plays in the MLB today. For the MLB, what you got to do is we got teams that are returning home from road trips. You kind of want to look to fade teams like that. Detroit is actually returning from the Pacific Coast. So it is their home opener, but a return home spot from the Pacific Coast is not easy. They and the White Sox both had a day off, but Jack Flaherty, I mean, he's going to be a big favorite against the White Sox. Jonathan Cannon, I think, has not done well historically against Detroit either, even though he's a young pitcher with not that much history. But I think Flaherty has good history against the White Sox, even though they might be familiar with him because he was on Detroit up until midway through last year, and now he's back there. So Cannon, kind of the more unfamiliar pitcher still, but he has faced Detroit before and hasn't done well. I am going to be on the Red Sox game, and I'm going to fade my Boston Red Sox. I'm going to be on St. Louis here as the moneyline underdog. I'm going to take St. Louis, even though the pitching matchup isn't really the reason for this. Looks like there is strong market indicator. There are strong market indicators on St. Louis. Red Sox down from minus 160 to minus 136. 65% of tickets on them, but 77% of the cash coming in on St. Louis. This is going to be a full game play because I don't necessarily love the starting pitching matchup, but it is part of this. But the other part is the Red Sox played yesterday. They finished a series with Baltimore. They won at Baltimore. Nice big win for the Red Sox. The Red Sox had to use 4 of their relief pitchers, I think. So we're looking at a team that played yesterday and has travel up against a St. Louis team that is traveling, but they had yesterday off. So you're going to get the more rested bullpen on the side of St. Louis, and the Red Sox could be in a little bit of a letdown after winning a series against a division rival like Baltimore. So I don't like the spot for the Red Sox for those reasons. Returning home from a road trip. Yes, I know it's the home opener. And for the home opener, sometimes you're pumped. And yes, this is an afternoon game. We got some afternoon baseball here on a Friday. I will not be going to the game, even though I am going to be in the city of Boston. But I like all that. So it's a bad spot for the Red Sox. Again, you can find these spots where on getaway day, one of these teams played while the other team was off. St. Louis is starting a road trip. And you know I always say you want to get the road trip off on the right foot. So usually you tend to be focused on the road trip. But St. Louis is coming off a losing series to a not very good Anaheim Angels team. I don't think they're very good. So I think St. Louis is going to show more focus. And the fact that they won that last game to avoid the sweep, I think will give them a little bit of momentum coming into this game, even though baseball is not really that much of a momentum sport. So I like that as well. You got a team starting a road trip against a team returning home from a road trip, even though the Red Sox are only in Texas and Baltimore, whatever. And then we got the starting pitching matchup to look at. Eric Fedde is pitching for St. Louis here. And since he's been on St. Louis, he's had a career resurgence, man. He's actually been good, and I thought it was kind of a mirage, but maybe it isn't. He pitched pretty well again in his first game this season, allowing only 2 hits in 6 innings against Minnesota, even though he only had 2 strikeouts, which is not great because you expect more strikeouts out of Fedde, I think, than that. He didn't walk anybody, though, so his command wasn't that bad. He's not really a huge strikeout pitcher, but he's decent. Up against the Red Sox only have 3 hitters who have ever seen him before, so the Red Sox only have 7 at-bats for us, so even though it does amount to a 286 average and an 831 OPS because he has issued 4 walks to the Red Sox, that's still a very limited sample size. So most of the Red Sox hitters have never even seen Fedde before. So I actually think Fedde will have a little bit of an advantage against a lot of those hitters. The hitter that's the only hitter on the Red Sox who even has a hit against him is Devers. And we know how bad Devers has been with that issue with him demanding that he play third base, even though he's a terrible fielder at third base. And the Red Sox said, no, we're going with Alex Bregman because he is the gold glover, which makes sense. So you're going to be the DH. So Devers is the DH, and it's almost like he's just intentionally tanking because, of course, he is a good hitter. He should be able to DH, but he looks fat right now. And he started off with like a record number of strikeouts at the plate so far this season. So I don't know if you trust Devers, even though he is 2 for 2 off of Fedde. Whoever the last pitcher was for Baltimore, I think Charlie Morton. I think Devers historically wrecked him as well, and I don't think Devers really did anything in that game either. So I don't put much stock into that. Yes, Trevor Story does have 3 walks against Fedde, but he hasn't hit him. He's 0 for 4 off of him, so we'll see what happens there. But I think Fedde might be the better side of this pitching matchup. Walker Buehler, I know he had a bad start to the season, and a lot of times guys will bounce back. If they're like a veteran pitcher, a lot of times they'll do better in the next game. But he got knocked around, man. Even though the 3.0 strikeout walk ratio doesn't look that bad, he was way too hittable yet again with 7 hits allowed in 4 1/3. And That's been his problem, man. The last couple of seasons, since he's come back from injury, he just has not been the same pitcher, and I don't see signs that he's returning to his form that he had before he had that surgery or whatever. He just has not been good for years now. Since then, not off to a good start this season. So I don't trust Walker Buehler, man. When the Red Sox signed him, I didn't like the signing. I didn't trust it. Baltimore's a little bit more familiar with him, even though he does have a nice 7-0 strikeout walk ratio. He doesn't really walk that many guys, but he's been hit okay. They do have 22 at-bats worth off of him. 273 average and 773 OPS. So in a larger sample sizes, more you can glean from that. And Baltimore has hit him at a decent OPS and a decent batting average at least. So all that being taken into account, I like the Cardinals in that game, and that is where I'm going to go with it. Chicago Cubs returning home from a road trip, so not really a good spot as they started the season on the road. They're coming off a sweep of the A's where they really couldn't even look any better as they scored 35 runs in 3 games. I told you, man, that ballpark in Sacramento, balls are just flying out of there. So it's crazy. So Chicago looks way too good offensively right now. I mean, I think they're a pretty good hitting team, but I don't think they're as good as they might look here. They're returning home from the Pacific Coast now, so I don't like the spot for Chicago. The problem is I don't want to fade Shota Imanaga either, as he is a good pitcher. He's come over from Japan and done really well for the Cubs. Off to a good start this year with only 1 run allowed in 11 innings, although a 6.6 strikeout walk ratio isn't that good. Most of it was in that first game where he kind of struggled to open the season in Japan. Maybe just had some nerves there. And he's done, I think he's never been seen before. You have to keep, on ESPN, you have to keep switching the opponent to there, but I'm pretty sure he's never been seen before by the Padres. So Imanaga does have a bit of an edge there, as he's a pretty good pitcher, and the Padres hitters are unfamiliar with him. And I don't trust Vasquez at all for the Padres, even though he had a decent start to the season. He did walk 4 guys, which isn't that great in that game, although he shut out the Braves. The Braves have been really struggling to start the season, so I don't know how much we could really take away from that. I don't think Vasquez is that good a pitcher. He really struggled last year. He does have pretty good numbers against the Cubs, though. But I'm going to stay away from that game as well. I'm just pointing out some of the situations that are going on here as I have a little bit of time before I get out of here. Imanaga, Cubs are up from minus 145 to minus 161. Money has come in to drive the line on the Cubs up, but 62% of tickets, 85% of the cash coming in on San Diego. Again, I think the Cubs obviously have the advantage in the starting pitching matchup, but the situational advantage is there for San Diego. So not a game I want to play. The Mets are also returning home from a road trip to start the season. They were down in Houston and Miami. They're returning home. Kevin Gausman pitching for Toronto. I think he does not have good numbers against the Mets, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he's been a decent pitcher for a while. He's a veteran pitcher, but yeah, the Mets hit him in 72 at-bats worth. The Mets have actually annihilated him, especially Juan Soto is 8 for 15 off him with 12 walks and 2 strikeouts, 319 batting average overall and 1,015 OPS, but a lot of it is Soto. And Starling Marte has destroyed him as well. So Gausman could really be in for it here. The way that I would look to play this game, if you really want to, is to go to the player props, because you know that this matchup, Soto absolutely destroys Gausman. So as long as he's not hurt or anything, he's going to be in the lineup, which I think he probably will be. I would look that way. And the way that I like the hitter props, even though I don't really do a whole lot with props at all, ever, you don't want to look at home run props because you never get the best value on the home run props, because even the best hitter like Ohtani is only going to hit a home run once every few games. So the odds are just not good enough for it. You'll probably be seeing Soto at plus 200 something to hit a home run when it should be probably plus 400 something at least. So you get screwed on those odds. So the way that I would do it when you know that this hitter bashes this pitcher is you want to look for hits plus runs plus RBIs and play that player over their hits plus runs plus RBIs totals. It's a nice mix. So you can just have a good game in any particular way. And that way, he's walked so many times against Gausman that way the walks won't kill you either, because if he walks, he can at least score a run to add to that total. So that's why that prop is a little bit of a better way to look, even though, yes, it's a little bit higher than just the hits plus RBIs or whatever, but the walks could kill you with some of those props like that. Colorado played yesterday, so I don't love that either. They were just in Tampa and Philly, and now they're returning home into elevation. Although, of course, with all these return home teams, they are playing their home opener. I don't really trust the A's either. I mean, I don't trust Feltner on the mound. He has decent numbers against the A's. I think Beto, I don't even know what his, I forget. I looked all of this up, but I don't even know what his numbers are against Colorado. I don't want to deal with any of it though, so I will stay away. And then we do have this Seattle-San Francisco game is weird to me. San Francisco's returning over a road trip as well. They just swept Houston, and they've won 4 games in a row, 5-1. And with Verlander on the mound, my take would be that San Francisco is probably overvalued right now because they're looking at a 5-1 team with that big-name pitcher on the mound. I don't love that, even though they are up from -130 to -143, 87% of tickets, 90% of the cash coming in on Verlander on the Giants side, by the way. Line on Oakland, or sorry, not Oakland. Homeless A is up from -110 to -127 against that return home Colorado team. That's how bad Colorado is even at home. They're an underdog against the A's. 73% of tickets, 74% of the cash. So money looks like it's coming in on the A's. In this game, it looks like it's coming in a little bit on the Giants, but they are public. 87% of tickets, 90% of the cash. In a return home spot like that, and with Verlander being the big name on the mound and a 5-1 start to the season, Giants probably playing a little bit above their pay grade right now, even though I don't think they're going to be that terrible, but probably not as good as they look so far. So there might be some value. Looking to Seattle, it's just the weird thing is I was looking, I'm like, oh, okay, Luis Castillo is on the mound for Seattle. I thought he just pitched the other day, though, but yeah, he's in the rotation. But this is a different Luis Castillo. Seattle has 2 Luis Castillos in their starting rotation. This is Luis F. Castillo, and he's like 30 years old, and he's only made 3 appearances in the majors. I don't know who he is. I'm not going to risk it trying to play Seattle here, man, even though I guess the hitters will have no idea who this guy is either, but I mean, it's just very strange that he happens to have the same name as one of their well-known starters. Very strange. Next up, I am going to have my other play here, which is another +120 underdog. This is a home team. I'm going to play on Washington. Arizona was just involved in a high-scoring series against the Yankees. People are going to look at what they've done so far, some high-flying games against the Cubs, beat the Yankees in a series, and then finally had their win streak busted yesterday. I just don't think this is a good spot. Arizona continuing their road trip here. So, yes, they are adjusted to the East Coast. So they just are coming off a huge series against the Yankees that they won. And having the road strip their win streak snapped, and they tried to come back in this game after being in a big early hole against the Yankees. They put up a 4 spot in the 7th to try to get this game won, which, by the way, this game only had 1 more hit in it than the game that I lost on the over, and we saw 16 runs scored in this game, and in mine there were only 4, even though this was 20 hits, and in mine there were 19, so isn't that just great? Way more efficient hitting with runners on base in this game, more home runs, but the Diamondbacks used 3 of their relief pitchers, which is about normal, but Merrill Kelly got blasted. He did not go far into that game at all, so they had to dip into their bullpen early, so Ryan Nelson won't be available, which actually kind of sucks if you're fading Arizona because Ryan Nelson is actually pretty terrible in my opinion. So he's probably unavailable, but that does mean Arizona doesn't really have their long relief man in this game. So you're looking at an Arizona team that played yesterday plus has travel. Washington has travel, but they didn't play yesterday. They're returning home from a road trip, but they only had 1 series on the road up in Toronto, and they got swept. So I actually think they're more in a bounce-back spot here with the day off, and it wasn't a long road trip for them. So I like how this sets up for Washington. Looking at the market here, what do we have going on? We have the line dropping a little bit on Arizona. Some market indicators on Washington as well. Down from -145 to -140 on Arizona. 75% of the tickets on them. Public likes this Arizona team in the start to the season that they've had. Washington has looked pretty bad. They are not very good, but maybe they're flying a little bit under the radar right now. 54% of the cash coming in on Washington. This is also going to be a full game, just like my other one, just because I think the situation is what dictates the play here. So you want to get the bullpens involved in games like this with the Red Sox and Diamondbacks both having used their bullpen yesterday because part of the handicap is you're playing on a team that has a more rested bullpen. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to fade Brandon Pfaadt here. He's been a decent pitcher. He's a decent young pitcher. Started pitching pretty well. Off to a good start here with a nice start over the Cubs here. We went 6 innings, allowing 3 runs. 5-1 strikeout walk ratio. That's all good, but surprisingly against Washington, he hasn't been that good, even though it's a limited sample size of 16 at-bats. they've hit him okay. He has 3 walks and only 1 strikeout against him, and it all amounts to a 312 average and 796 OPS, even though I know it's a small sample size. But Fott has kind of struggled against these Nationals hitters. On the other side, the Nationals have Jake Irvin, who's a pretty young guy as well. His ERA does look good this year, though. He's put too many men on base, man. 2 walks in this game, but it was against the Phillies, and he limited them to 2 earned runs, so maybe that's not really that bad. They got wrecked in that game, so it looks like Irvin did terrible in the game, but he actually only allowed 2 runs in 5 innings. Did put a lot of guys on base, like I said, but actually escaped the damage. So really, it was the bullpen that got absolutely destroyed for Washington in that game. Irvin's not that bad of a pitcher. He put together a decent season last year with a 1.20 whip, which should indicate that his ERA should have been a little bit better than what it was at 4.41. So I think he might be flying a little bit under the radar, even though he's not great. I think he's a serviceable pitcher. And against the Diamondbacks, we have a bigger sample size here. And yeah, he has way too many walks. 7 walks, 10 strikeouts. So 777 average. That's not that great. But 777 OPS, is not that great. But 267 batting average is decent. And I don't know. I think he may be able to limit the damage in this game. And again, it's not entirely about the starting the starting pitching matchup here. It's more about the spot in its entirety. So even though, you are taking the worst starting pitcher in general overall, I think the matchup at least kind of levels the playing field between those 2 starters, even though Fott normally, yes, is the better pitcher. So we'll see what happens there. Philadelphia played yesterday as well, and they got to face Yamamoto as L.A. has not lost a game yet. They're traveling across the country, but they are starting a road trip here, so they're going to have to adjust to the time zone, but usually your focus is to start a road trip. But that kind of, the fact they've traveled across the country at least kind of mitigates the fact that Philadelphia did have to play yesterday. So Philadelphia will be the less rested team, but Philadelphia having to face Yamamoto, maybe not a great spot for them, as Yamamoto, one of those Japanese pitchers that came over, and he's done quite well in short playing time, and Philadelphia's never seen him before. So I do think Yamamoto does have some advantages in that game up against Luzardo, who I believe came over from Miami to Philly, and he had a decent start with a ton of strikeouts. I mean, this is what he does, man. He puts too many men on base, but he has really good strikeout stuff. So he has the ability to be a really good pitcher, but it hasn't really just coalesced into that much, as he did struggle with Miami, just walking too many guys, being too wild, although he does have strikeout stuff. So we'll see what happens in this game. It'll be an interesting pitching matchup. The Dodgers have done mediocre against him with only a 241 batting average, of course, because he's walked 6 of them. 726 OPS is getting a little bit into the higher territory there. Atlanta is returning home from a road trip, but they're out on the Pacific Coast, and they're off to an awful 0-7 start. So you got to think they're probably going to bounce back. They probably should get their first win here, as they're a big home favorite against a terrible Miami team. But you never know with the return home spot. But Max Meyer is pitching for Miami, and I've talked about how he's a good young pitcher, but Atlanta actually has hit him well. Atlanta has good numbers off of him. Atlanta hits him to the tune of 323 with over a 1,000 OPS in 31 at-bats, although he's actually issued no walks to their hitters. But Meyer does not have a great track record against them. I would give the edge to Schwellenbach. Either way, I think Schwellenbach is the better of these 2 pitchers. He's been quite good almost immediately since entering the league, so I give him the advantage here. And Miami only has 4 hitters who have ever seen him. Before, in 12 at-bats, he has 5 strikeouts against them, even though Jonah Bride does have a home run off of him. 750 OPS just because it's a small sample size, and he did allow that 1 home run, but Schwellenbach is good, and I expect him to be fine against a bad Miami lineup there. Baltimore played yesterday, so they just lost to the Red Sox, and they got Dean Creamer on the mound, who I don't trust him. I don't think he's good at all. He didn't do well in that first game where I think it was against the Red Sox, right? Whatever it was, he didn't pitch well. Against Kansas City, he actually has done fairly well, holding them to a 173 average, although a 713 OPS, because he's walked 7 guys with 8 strikeouts. So still, I don't trust Creamer. Baltimore did play yesterday and have to use some of their bullpen. Kansas City is returning home from a road trip, but they were just in the Midwest for one series trip to Milwaukee, so they may be more in bounce back mode. But Seth Lugo, I think he's starting to have age catch up to him a little bit, man. He had kind of an outlier season maybe last year where he was good, although he does have some history that indicates that he could do that again and be a pretty decent pitcher. I don't think he's quite as good as he looked last year, though. And Baltimore's hitters actually do well against him. 279 average, 767 OPS, not too bad. Even though he does have a 9.0 strikeout walk ratio against them. So I'll stay away, but just pointing that out. And I will say there's heavy market indication on the Tampa Bay side here on the Rays, but I don't really understand it. As we got Texas down from minus 130 to minus 123. It's a little bit less heavy now on the market indicators, but still 56% of tickets on Texas, 51% of the cash. I don't really understand it. I don't see why exactly. Texas, I believe they're just staying at, they're returning home from Cincinnati, where they won 2 games in a row, 1-0. Now returning home. Texas has looked pretty good so far. I mean, no doubt. They're a 5-2 team right now. I think they are in the mix to try to win their division this year, man. I think it's probably going to come down to Texas versus probably Houston. Texas may be able to win that division. So I don't know that their 5-2 start is really that much. It was really that misleading. And Tampa Bay, I mean, they're a team, they have a really good bullpen, decent pitching overall, but they can't score. They did just have their win streak snapped, but now they get to go out on the road to start a road trip, which usually is a focus spot. So, again, we will see about all that. I just don't understand all the market indicators that we're seeing here. Zach Littell is pitching. He has started off well with Tampa again. A nice start to the season. But against Texas, he has not done well. As Texas has hit him to the tune of a 343 average and a 1,133 OPS, even though he does have an 8-1 strikeout walk ratio against him. He's allowed 3 home runs to them that are all spread out between 3 of their hitters. Higashioka, Seager, and Tavares each have one. 35 at-bat sample size, so Littell doesn't have good numbers against Texas. Texas has Tyler Male pitching. I was on him in his previous game, and he didn't pitch well at all, but they still got the win. They got the bullpen game going on and won that game against the Red Sox. He threw 61 pitches in 1 2/3 and put 6 men on base and somehow only allowed 1 run, 4 walks, 2 hits. I mean, that's not a good indicator at all. I still got that game right because I kind of expected it to be a bullpen game and kind of throw the Red Sox off. Against Tampa, Mal actually has basically never seen them before. Most of their hitters have never seen him before. Only 2 hitters have seen him before, and they're 1 for 3 off him. So I don't know. I mean, Mal, yeah, I think probably what the market is looking at here is the fact that Littell is actually a starting pitcher and Mal isn't. So you're probably going to get a bullpen game out of Texas. With a bullpen game, really anything goes, man. And Texas with a rested bullpen, they could throw anything they got and play the matchups against Tampa. And Tampa, not a very good hitting team. So while, yeah, they're the underdog and they'll probably be in the game, I don't trust that. And then we do have an undecided pitcher in Cincinnati, Milwaukee, who actually started their series yesterday. So they're continuing their series. Nick Martinez going for Cincinnati has been a decent pitcher for them. We don't know who's pitching for Milwaukee, though, but Cincinnati is already listed as a road favorite in that one. Thinking that Milwaukee's probably just going to have to spot start somebody there. And then Cleveland and Anaheim. Anaheim's returning over from a road trip. They are having their home opener here as they were out in Chicago and St. Louis. Having to return to the Pacific Coast. Again, not really an easy spot to be in there. Jose Soriano up against Gavin Williams in this one. Cleveland already on the Pacific Coast and having gotten swept by a pretty good Padres team. The fact that they have way less travel here and they're just out on the Pacific Coast already, I think does give them an advantage there. And they might bounce back from that sweep. I kind of like Cleveland, the way it sets up for them. But Gavin Williams, even though, yeah, I think he's a decent pitcher and I think he can pitch better than he looked last year. He actually has never faced Anaheim before either, except Nicky Lopez is 2 for 5 off him with 1 walk. So he's done damage off him. But other than that, Williams is an unknown to LA. So should I play Cleveland here? I mean, the spot sets up nicely. Gavin Williams, the fact that he has never been seen before by LA is good. He had a decent start on his first start to the season. 5 innings, 2 earned runs allowed against Kansas City. It's an okay start. Last year, again, his whip was bad last year, though, but it's really all about the walks. He's just totally out of control. His strikeout numbers have been pretty good in his career. He gets his command under control, man. He could be a good pitcher. He's a big guy on the mound there, so I do kind of like him. And then looking at Jose Soriano on the other side for Anaheim here, who I don't think is as good. He had a decent he was decent last year, though he also walked too many guys. And he was a little bit less hittable, but he's also less of a strikeout pitcher. Kind of an interesting mix there. And up against Cleveland, what do we got? Actually, he hasn't done well against Cleveland. In 21 at-bats, 333 average and 867 OPS. You know what? Yeah, I don't know, man. The market indicators are all on Anaheim, but I don't agree with it at all. Cleveland down from -120 to -110. 62% of tickets on Cleveland. 63% of the cash coming in on Anaheim. So the market indicators are way against me in this game. I kind of like it, though. Like, should I play it? I don't know. Let me see. And, yeah, and Anaheim just had their streak busted, and they're 4-2 right now. But, I mean, they won 2 games against the White Sox. So, really, do you think they're as good as their record looks? Probably not. And Cleveland is probably better than their record would look right now, as they're only 2-4. Yeah, you know what? Let's play Cleveland as well. If you can get -110 on this, we'll go Cleveland. It'll be a full game because it has to do with the situation and the starting pitching matchup. Let's go with the Cleveland Indians. That's going to do it for me, man. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter. Now, one more time, hockey, we got a split bet on the Red Wings at +1.5, puck line -155, and +165 on the money line. NBA, we got Denver -1.5 or money line if you want that. And MLB, St. Louis +120, Washington +120, Cleveland -110. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, Tower Gang, patreon.com/Tower Gang. For the most offensive podcast out there, I apologize for the darkness. My ring light kind of tipped over there. That's going to do it. Let's have a good Friday. Peace. Let's win for once.